But getting back to this model here, what was the first emotion that everybody in this place went through when I first gave you that information? I gave you the information. What was the first emotion?
What's the catch?
Yeah, what's the catch? It was denial. We're actually in a state of denial. And everybody, the energy level was high, everybody was leaning forward, everyone was involving themselves in the team. But you kind of thought in the back of your mind, there's a play on words going on here. You know, and some of you turned your base upside down, some of you pulled the nail out, some of you used a rubber band to connect it to the top. Because honestly, you thought it can't be done. How could it possibly be done? So whenever you go through a change process, and this is obviously important as a leader, when you go and announce a change back to your team, what the first emotion that they'll go through is denial. In other words, they'll be thinking to themselves, nothing's really going to change, business as usual, there's nothing terribly different about what we're doing. It's a state of denial. Now, I do a lot of work in the corporate world, and a lot of managers, what they do is they bring their team together like this in a briefing. And what they do is they say to the team members, as of Monday there will be a new computer system, and this system is going to affect your work in a number of significant ways. Everyone's sitting there with a glaze in their eyes thinking, here we go again, nothing's really going to change. And then the manager says to the team members at the end of the briefing, are there any questions? And of course there's dead silence. So he thinks to himself, the manager, well obviously everybody's on board. Then he goes outside, and at the water cooler there are two of the people who were in the briefing who are complaining about the change. And he catches them and he says, hey, you guys had your chance to talk in the meeting and you didn't. Why didn't you speak up when you were at the meeting? But in actual fact, the manager has made a mistake, because what he hasn't realised is that that person who was in denial at the meeting has now changed their emotional state to one of hostility, anger, and all of the other kinds of things that we see every day in the workplace. If that manager was doing it right, what he should have done is saying, here's some information, as of Monday there'll be a new computer system, or in 2 weeks' time there'll be a new computer system. I want you to go away and think about it. Think about how it might affect your work. We're going to come back in another 3 or 4 days, and at that stage I want to hear any issues that you might have with it, any questions you've got. That's a good way of managing it, because he's clever enough to know that by the time he's briefed them to the next time, the state of those people will have changed significantly. They'll slipped out of denial. Now, you're all nice people, so you didn't really exhibit some of the bad traits of the next emotion, but I'm sure some of you are sitting there thinking, what's all this got to do with what we're doing here? And, in the back of your mind, you would have been a little bit resistant about the exercise. So the second emotion that people go through in a change process, and you'll notice that the productivity's dropped off significantly, is resistance. So people sit back, the energy level drops off, we're hoping somebody works it out in the team, I'm not involved in this, hopefully someone else will get that, and the whole issue of productivity drops off. Now, every one of us in this room knows that emotion because we deal with it every day in the workplace. Resistance. It's the toughest emotion to deal with because it is very outgoing, whereas denial is more glaze in the eyes. Resistance is more actual verbal argy-bargy about why this can't happen, and we all know that in our workplace. In fact, in some of our workplaces we have what I call professional resistors. These people would resist everything. We gave them free beer tomorrow, they'd say there's a catch, the beer's not cold enough. So they're actually in a state of professional resistance. The good news is, the bad news is we've all got them. The good news is they're usually a minority. So therefore, being a minority, if we manage that correctly, we'll be able to get through that process, and hopefully those people won't contaminate the rest of the team on the change process itself. But nevertheless, it has to be managed. In fact, I would say to you, when you get back to your workplace and you make an announcement, maybe your superior has given you an announcement and you have to talk to your team about a change, and you find after a while they start getting quite resistant about the change, that's actually a good thing. The reason it's a good thing is they now know it's real.